Lovers of lore, thank you for joining me for this special installment of March of the Machines Lore Legendary Team Up Edition. Wizards has released some fun background information about what's happened on a whole bunch of different planes in the Magic multiverse, and it features different characters teaming up to battle the Phyrexians. So let's start out on the world of Amoncat, a world that's been completely ravaged due to Nicol Bolas's foul plan, where essentially he turned the entire population into an army building machine for him. He took the living gods of Amoncat and subverted their will to his own ends. So they end up with this trial where everybody on Amoncat essentially goes through it to see who's worthy. And Jeru was one of these worthy who was actually meant to die on the tip of Hazaret's spear. He was angry when he didn't get to. And now we have this ultimate team up where instead the two of them have banded together and they are leading and helping the rest of the survivors on Amoncat against the Phyrexians. When Jeru and Hazaret went to engage with the Phyrexians, they actually found that at Nactaman already, the Scarab God and Locust God were there, and their undead hordes were distracting and engaging the Phyrexians. Hazaret uses her flaming spear to ignite the Phyrexians' glistening oil directly inside their veins, and they burned all around her as Jeru led a crop of elite fighters to chop them all into pieces. It ends with the Phyrexians being destroyed and the insect gods saying nothing and departing deep into the desert. Over on Zendikar, we have the interesting combination of an angel and a vampire getting together in the form of Drana and Linvala. Now, Linvala featured more overall in the story of March of the Machines, but at some point during the events of this, Linvala ends up encountering Drana. Now, Drana is the last of Zendikar's Blood Chiefs. The Blood Chiefs are the only ones who can actually create new vampires. So she is the most powerful and prominent vampire on the entirety of the plane. And somehow, in the midst of an intense battle with Phyrexians, they discovered that Blood Chief vampiric magic and angelic powers actually dovetail together quite nicely and amplify their power. So they end up essentially with a temporary truce that leads to respect and appreciation for each other. Over on Kaladesh, we find a very unlikely pair together. We've got Baral and Kari Zev. Now, Baral was originally tasked with being part of the police force of Kaladesh. He had to maintain order while also secretly rooting out mages. And at the same time, he was also secretly a mage himself. So there's multiple levels of intrigue there. Now, Baral actually ends up essentially turning against Kaladesh and is imprisoned. But when the Phyrexians show up, all of a sudden, the prison that's holding him busts open, he's free, and he's about to get wiped out by all the Phyrexians, but he's saved by Kari Zev. She shows up, brings him on board her skyship without realizing who he is. When she realizes, she basically tells him, "You're going to help us fight the Phyrexians, or I'm going to toss you overboard." And she assigns Ragavan to keep watch over him. Over on Dominaria, we have the absolutely ridiculous team up of Yargle and Multani. Now, Multani is an ancient marrow nature spirit who's been around forever, but Yargle is a freak. He was essentially human at one point. He was the right-hand man of Demon Lord Belzenlock. And Belzenlock did not like the aspirations that his lieutenant had. So basically turned him into a little kind of ghost slug. A frog ate that ghost maggot slug and turned into Yargle, this gigantic frog demon spirit thing that knows naught but hunger. So you have this situation where Yargle is basically just mowing down on Phyrexians because he's happy to eat anything and everything. But even as corrupted as Yargul is, he's not immune to the Phyrexian oil. So slowly but surely, it starts to corrupt him. Now, Muldrotha, who is the daughter of Multani, but also like a crazy corrupted nature elemental, comes along and says to Multani, Yargul, who is a very potent force in this battle, is being corrupted to Phyrexia side. We need to do something. So what happens then is Multani essentially merges with Yargul in a way and helps to guide him in battle and protect him from the Phyrexian corruption, while also admiring that Yargul is, in a way, one aspect of the life and death cycle, an endless maw, a void that consumes all life. It is a very interesting concept. Over on Kaldheim, we get to see the team up of Inga and Essika. Now, back in the past, roughly about a year ago, Vorinclex tore into Kaldheim and actually ended up messing up Essika, right? Essika is the goddess who is tied to the world tree, and she's an incredibly powerful one because she is responsible for creating the Cosmos Elixir. And the Cosmos Elixir is actually what gives the gods of Kaldheim their power. So she is super crucial in terms of Kaldheim's overall health for their pantheon of gods. She's also attuned into the world tree itself. So when Realmbreaker comes crashing into their world, it disrupts and disorients her flow. She's unable to see the cosmos properly and can't navigate it anymore. And that means that she's not able to bring more Cosmos Elixir to the rest of the gods of Kaldheim. So they're going to basically be overpowered by Phyrexia. This situation ends up being resolved by bringing on board Inga Rune Eyes. Now, Inga is a future seer who has given up her ability to see. She is blind in the normal sense, but her eyes actually have runes emblazoned on them that let her see beyond the regular world. So she can essentially become Essika's eyes, and together they can continue to deliver the Cosmos Elixir to give Kaldheim that fighting chance. Over on Ikoria, we get the team up of Kogla and Yadaro. These are just essentially two forces of nature, a gigantic ape beast and a dinosaur turtle. They have a fun sort of smash everything kind of vibe. There's no real story behind these two other than they just like to go around smashing all the Phyrexians that they encounter. Over on Ixalan, we saw that the Phyrexian invasion was met by the elder dinosaurs being summoned up by Huatli. Galta is one of those 5 elder dinosaurs. At the same time, Maverin Fane, a high-ranking vampire leader, had been freed from prison and had been enlisted with the forces that were fighting against the Phyrexian incursion. So, after the elder dinosaurs got engaged with the battle, Maverin Fane ends up leading his legionnaires after the elder dinosaurs and ends up teaming up with Galta and using Galta as a mount. One of the elder dinosaur avatars of Ixalan is being used as a vampiric mount. On Kamagawa, we have a very unlikely combination in the form of Hidetsugu and Kairi. Now, Kairi is the reincarnation of Kiga, who was the earlier version of the spirit dragon from the realm of Kamagawa. When Kamagawa was rebirthed into its new neon form, the dragons lost their connection with the old Kamagawa and had to be rebirthed into new forms. So Kairi is Kaiga, but also retains the memories of previous life. So, knowing this, Hidetsugu is an ancient ogre demon who has been around for a very long time and in fact got so powerful that they were imprisoned in the spirit realm. But things got so dire on Kamagawa that Kairi realized they were going to have to get all the help they could. So essentially, Kairi breaks in to Hidetsugu's prison in the spirit realm and offers him freedom in exchange for aid against the Phyrexians. Now, Hidetsugu is happy to be freed and also just loves to destroy and lay waste to things, so is absolutely on board. And together, the unlikely duo rain death down upon the Phyrexians. Over on Ravnica, we have the absolutely delightful combination of Borborygmos and Fibblethip. Fibblethip is everybody's favorite little lost homunculus who is constantly showing up in different locations, but also disappearing just as quickly. Borborygmos was once the leader of the Gruul, a gigantic monosyllabic beast of doom. He is a lot of fun and makes an awesome combination with Fibblethip. Essentially, Fibblethip is on constant alert, looking out for threats, yelling out his little squeak of warning every time something comes by, and Borborygmos just flattens it with his massive club or just tears it apart with his gigantic hulking arms. On Innistrad, you get the absolutely wild combination of Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Thalia is a soldier of Avacyn who rose through the ranks to become one of the most important leaders on the world of Innistrad, especially against this Phyrexian incursion that's going on. The Gitrog monster is an entirely different beast altogether. Living out in a lake, it lived by a village where the villagers were terrified of it. So they just start feeding it sheep, and then villager after villager. So the Gitrog monster is just living the easy life. It doesn't have to go and hunt down prey. And by the way, it can actually hypnotize you with its eyes. If you look directly into its eyes, it can control you. But it didn't need to do any of that because this village was already cowed and just kept feeding people, boom, into the maw of the Gitrog. By the time they ran out of villagers, the Phyrexian invasion had started. So the Gitrog monster came out of its lake and starts eating Phyrexians, but they tasted terrible. And unlike the villagers, they actually put up a fight. So the Gitrog decided it was time to go and started heading off towards Thraben, where Thalia just happened to be there as the last survivor of her squad, and she's about to be overwhelmed by Phyrexians. When the Gitrog monster saw her, it realized that maybe this human would also bring her food. So it starts tearing into all the Phyrexians, hoping to once again live the lazy life. And then it stood there, waiting, looking at Thalia. It clicked in Thalia's mind that it was offering to be her mount. So she mounted up, and together they go around laying waste to Phyrexians, while at the same time, Thalia knows that if she doesn't keep on her toes, she could end up in the Gitrog's mouth. Over in the depths of Theros, the invasion tree ends up piercing down into the underworld. And this leads to the combination of Kroxa and Kunaros. So Kroxa is the titan of death's hunger, and his hunger makes Yargle's hunger look like he just wants a snack. Kroxa wishes to devour all of existence. Kroxa is basically made out of mouths, and anything that he consumes is completely removed from existence. And this includes Phyrexian oil. And when Athreos realizes what a boon Kroxa is going to be against Phyrexia, he cuts the Titan's chains and sets him loose in the underworld. He charges Kunaros to basically keep Kroxa in line, shepherd him around, and make sure that he cannot escape the underworld. But Athreos knows that if Kroxa makes it up to the mortal realm, he's going to eat everyone and everything. And over on Tarkir, Zergo finally gets some redemption. The world of Tarkir had two separate timelines. Originally, in the first timeline, Zergo was a warlord. But when Sarkhan went back and restored the dragons of Tarkir, Zergo was relegated down to just being a servant. In this situation, he's finally able to find some glory. Even though his mistrust of dragons was incredibly strong, he knew that everyone would have to band together against Phyrexia. So he went to the most logical and intelligent of the dragons, Ojutai, and proposed that they would work together. Ojutai agreed, and they started to slaughter Phyrexians, ultimately setting an example that led to other combinations of dragons and warriors teaming up to rout the Phyrexian threat. All right, that wraps up our tour of the different planes of the multiverse and what occurred with these different team-ups. I hope that you enjoyed it. There was a lot of fun details in there. If you like what we're doing on this channel, you can support us by joining the channel membership or the Patreon. Big thank you to this channel's patrons and channel members. Now, go enjoy some more stories on this channel because remember, my friends, lore is life.